So you just finished your math test. You think to yourself, it wasn't that hard. Actually, it went pretty well. You're so sure you're going to score better than the previous exam. And then this happens. Well, you see, sometimes the difference between the strong and mediocre student isn't much. With the score in your hand, you keep wondering where you went wrong and ultimately lose the motivation to study and feel disheartened. But it doesn't have to be that way. Let me give you 5 common mistakes made by students so that you never repeat these mistakes again. Number 1, using reverse methods. Look at the question here. Well, it is a part of a bigger question and you can't really solve it without the prior information. But look at the kind of question it is. It asks you to show that the time taken is 2 hours. Now, questions that ask students to show results require students to start with given information and then arrive at the results. Reverse methods do not usually score. So for this question, you're not supposed to start with 2 hours and work your way backwards to 100 kilometers and $98. But you're supposed to start with 100 kilometers and $98 and eventually work your way to the result, that is 2 hours. Otherwise, you'll just lose marks. Number 2, using decimals too early. Look at the question here. It's a probability sum. So you most likely be working with fractions. Now be careful not to change these fractions into decimals too early in the sum. What do I mean by that? Let's say the probability of event A is 1 by 3. When you change that into a decimal, it becomes 0.33 recurring, which is not the same as 1 by 3. There you go. You just created an inaccuracy. And eventually, when you do get to the bottom of the answer, you will realize that your answer is way too inaccurate to be awarded full marks. So what's the solution to this? The solution is to keep working in fractions. So until you reach to the very last step of your answer, keep the fractions as they are. Do not change them into decimals. Keep working with fractions. At the very end, if necessary, change it into a decimal. Number 3, solving in less steps. We've all been guilty of this. Usually, when we want to solve quickly, we use the least number of steps to arrive at the solution. After all, how does it matter if the final answer is correct, right? Wrong. In math, especially algebra, we have stepwise marking. So for each step, you'll be awarded a score. This way, even if your final answer is wrong, you'll at least score a few marks for the steps. So remember, the next time, solve in individual steps. Make sure you show you're working properly. Number 4, not reading the question properly. Whoa, this really is a common mistake, isn't it? Let's see how many of you use your observation. Look at the question here. It's submitted by one of my students. Pause the video and figure out what he did wrong and comment below. Number 5, wrong factorization. A lot of students get confused with factorization. Look at the question here. You're supposed to simplify this by using factorization. And when you factorize the numerator and denominator, it looks something like this. Now, you see 2x minus 1 in the numerator and 2x minus 1 in the denominator. So what do? Your first instinct is just to cancel it. And that, my friend, is where you lose marks. You're not supposed to partially factorize. Here, what you're doing is cutting the entire denominator with a part of the numerator. You cannot cancel that way. You're supposed to factorize completely. So here 2x minus 1, you have to take it common from the entire numerator and then only you can cancel it with the denominator.